Yo, 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 yo. What's up, everyone? Welcome to episode 83 of the Uncommon Commentators. Thank y'all so much for joining us. I'm your boy, Antoine. Y'all already know, got the man Wiley's on the ones and twos, as always. And I got my main man, Garrett, GB, from Atlanta, Georgia, just like your boy. How you been, Garrett? How you been? How's your week? I know you've been busy writing, as you just got that writing job. Been reading your pieces, man. They're really good. I think you're really talented as a writer. I think you can, literally only go up from here. So, first off, how's your week been? And second, how's that new writing role been for you?
Yeah, man, my week has been pretty good, like you say. Been very productive with covering the Hawks with my new writing gig. So that's been going pretty good, very exciting, and I always enjoy sharing it with, with the entire world, for everybody to read and give their takes on it. But yeah, it's definitely been great so far. So the Hawks, they have their preseason finale, which is ongoing right now. We have the regular season that will start next week on Wednesday, I believe. And we have a lot to talk about. So I'm always excited to do this with you. So ready to get it rolling, my man.
Yeah, as always. Yeah, man, it's been some pretty exciting shit going on, man. Like we had the starting five come back. For those of you who don't know, it's the Netflix series where they take five NBA stars, mainly stars, and just document their lives throughout the playoffs, in between that, and in the off season as well. And really just they'll ask them about things they've been through in their lives, like significant moments. Like just really keep up with the players and what they've been doing. I really thought it had like some pretty cool clips. The one I've seen thus far, it was probably the Kevin Durant one where he admitted that how much he likes responding to trolls and stuff like that. Because he was saying like everyone thinks they want to be famous and shit until they get put on the big screen, and you really see how it is for a second, you know. And it was like it had the one up there when he was going back and forth. It was like Skip Bayless said, when I watch Kevin Durant, a 36-year-old, I see that he's semi-retired. And Katie responded, he's like, fuck it. I guess we're both washed then because Skip Bayless got kicked off the TV, man. So it's just shit was the shit me dying when I watched that. And I guess Joe James Harden, when he got married. No, well, not married. When he was at that wedding and that viral picture or video came out, when his fiance, who I don't know why I didn't know at the time that that was his fiance. That light skinned woman. Don't know her name, unfortunately. She caught that bouquet in front of James, and like it's really cool to get his insight and his inner thoughts about when that took place, and like even he, who's lived a crazy life, said that moment felt like a movie, seeing his girl catching in front of him, and you see his eyes, you see like the meme that came out of that, but he said he was really happy to meet her though, and that he does plan on marrying her, and like she even said like he was calling her like his wife before they even or he even proposed to her and stuff. So the starting five is always really cool. um had Tyrese Halliburton on there as well. I think Jalen Brown's on this season too. So it's really, really good. I think they had a good cast this year. If you haven't had a chance to watch it, you definitely should give it a try for sure. If you hadn't yet, yeah, I know you're a busy man, so but yeah, bro. I know for the first topic tonight, though, it's one of the biggest topics really around the league at the moment, and that's our boy Dyson Daniels, Double D, for the Atlanta Hawks. Everyone's waiting to see how much he's going to get paid for his rookie contract extension. Um, it came out today. Bobby Marks reported, ESPN's Bobby Marks reported that the Dyson's trying to get 150 million because that's what Jalen Suggs and from the Orlando Magic what he got. I mean, I'm not trying to be biased or whatever, but like, because I feel like I've seen enough Jalen Suggs. I know he got injured unfortunately last year, but I do think he's a good fucking point guard. I just think that Dyson, and I think the upside might be a little higher on Dyson given this how Dyson took off in 1 year like that. But I guess we can go ahead and start there because Keegan Murray also did get an extension as well, a 5-year deal. He got his. He actually got his deal from the Kings today also. So I did want to start with Dyson. Do you think he's going to get that money first and foremost? And do you think 150 million is team friendly for Dyson, or do you think he could like get even more than that? You feel?
Yeah, I was actually, thinking the same thing. I was thinking, 150 million. That's a lot of money. But I think, if you look at it, Yeah, I was actually I actually hosted a space on X earlier today about the Dyson Daniels deals and just
Mhm.
discussing with other fans about how they feel about that. And I guess my takeaway is this. I think two things. One, I think that he is worth 150 total. But in terms of is he worth that now, or would it be where he would get that kind of contract in restricted free after restricted free agency if they headed toward that way? Because it is
Right.
possible that the Hawks and Dyson may not come in agreement to a deal. I think if that doesn't happen, I think it's more so of Atlanta seeing his progression over the offseason with his offensive game. We know what he does on the defensive side of the floor, but it's more so seeing how much has he progressed and how effective can he be in the playoffs before they commit to that long term contract to him if they were to offer that. But I think my prediction is they will resign him. I think that the Jalen Suggs deal is basically a comparison, more of a scale as far as where Dyson, his agent, feel where his value is at, which I do agree. I think that's a fair comparison, especially compared to other players that received their contracts extensions earlier this week. But I think for Dyson, Bobby Marks, also did mention in his prediction in the article he put out today, stating that he thinks that the Hawks and Dyson will come to an agreement where he will be offered 125 million worth 5 years. So he's getting 25 million flat. So
Mhm.
I think that's something that they can agree with. I think because Jalen Suggs, he is a better offensive scorer than Dyson because he's a better shooter. But again, we
Yep.
know Dyson had a season, excuse me, this
You're good.
past season. Yeah, he had a one second in Defensive Player of the Year runner up, and of course we saw him as the making it all first team NBA defensive team, and we know that he won Most Improved Player. So when you put all those things in a consolidation, I think that kind of contract is reasonable, very reasonable. So I think that's something that they could come in agreement to.
Mhm.
Now, like I say, if Dyson feels like he's worth more, then of course they can push it to restricted free agency. My only thing is if you feel like Dyson is a core piece, I think that you would want to come to agreement right away, possibly get this done early because due to the fact that you have to worry about Trey Young because he has a player option, but I think you will want to lock in a long-term commitment with him as well if you decide to do that. And the same thing for Chris Porzingis as well. If everything goes well for him this season, of course he's quite injury prone, so we know that from a large sample size in previous years.
Yeah,
But
fair.
but I mean,
If
hey, these are the type of things that you have to go into. So I'm just giving the facts,
gotta be
but
honest. No, it's all good. You're
yeah,
right.
yeah, man. So, if everything goes well with him, then if you're interested in keeping him, then you got to come to agreement with him too. You got to figure something out. But to say at least, like I said, I think for Dyson, I think to an extent, I think he's kind of the more important piece because of his defensive prowess when he brings to the table, and we've seen how much of a difference maker he has been for his team. So I think if the Hawks are going to continue to improve and get better, and if they're going to be one of the top teams in the Eastern Conference, I think Dyson Daniels being locked in for a long term commitment, I think that is a must. So, but we know how these things work because we've seen it with previous times with Jalen Johnson and Yoko Kongwu and DeAndre Hunter when he was here, where they got their deals done, right at the front of buzzer on the deadline day. So it's expected that this is going to come down to the wire again, but like I said, my prediction is that they will come to agreement, but it may not be the 150, but I think it'll be around the 125 total. So yeah, that's what I
Mhm.
think that will happen Monday.
And I do agree with everything you said. The most thing I'm interested to see is how this is going to impact Trey Young because we knew this was going to happen. Putting on my Hawks cap as a fan here, we all knew this was going to happen. Like we all saw it coming. Like when Jalen hit that rise and even like in the third year, because this is year 5 for Jalen. So just seeing him in that third year before he had the good year last year, I knew it was gonna be a pretty penny to want to keep him on this roster. We really had to bank on the team chemistry that they've developed while he's been here. Which you can tell they really, really like playing with each other. So I think the same thing goes for Dyson. I think the team chemistry is going to play a really massive role in him signing the extension because obviously the Hawks haven't tasted much success. Of course, he was only here for 1 year, uh, and they were doing good before Jalen got hurt, but they didn't even make the playoffs last year, having two chances in the play-in tournament. So I think that Dyson, because he said it in the exit interviews, he's aware of what they're building down here, and like he really really likes this team. Of course, that could be just him saying that for the cameras, but I do think that they have developed a good rapport with the players, especially a lot of the players are foreign. You know, like three players in the starting lineup are foreign. So I think the Hawks have a lot of cachet. A lot of the players are really relatable to each other, you know. So and I think you can see it. They've all really got like get really attached to each other fairly quickly. And I think them being the third youngest team in the NBA also has a really big thing to do with that as well. It's like you know you're all gonna go from being freshmen to being seniors together. You're gonna go from being a bottom seeded team, real young together, losing, losing, losing. You're all gonna get older, get to your mid 20s. Now you're the ones that are winning, and when they hit that level, they're gonna be winning for a while because they're only going to be just getting started in the grand scheme of the development. And I think for Dyson, for what's about to happen in his career, it's just really interesting. Like I'm really trying to see if like because this is where my next question for you comes in about Daniel. It's like do you think he can become an all-star eventually? And I know like that's a pretty not to be simplistic, but he's going to be on the team if he signs the extension, which I think he will. That's why I mentioned the team chemistry to answer that question first. I think he will sign the extension as well. I think he likes this roster. He likes his role on the team being the starting shooting guard. He blew up here in terms of his role, so he fits very nicely alongside another ball dominant point guard. So a ball dominant point guard who likes to pass, of course. So I think Dyson fits perfectly with the Hawks. He's already changed the dynamic of the team. Bogdanovich said that while he was here, that he just him being in the locker room, him everyone witnessing his defensive effort in practice, it just completely changed the intensity. And now we have other good defenders like Kristaps, like Nikhil, like and of course Zachary's going to get better. But I think for Dyson, again, this goes back to my question because he's known for his defense, but do you think his offensive game will take the leap needed to hit that level? He's going to play on a team with Jalen Johnson, who's likely will average 19 to 21 points per game this year. And I think Zachary Risachet is going to improve too. I think he's going to average like 15 points in the back, while everyone else averaging like it's just going to be so much to go around. So do you think he averaged 14 last year. Do you think he could average like 17, 18 points a game with 4 steals, with like 5 assists? Like, do you think he's capable of increasing his scoring to that kind of level?
Yeah, I can see him averaging around between 14 to 16 points this year. Um, I'm not sure how smooth of a transition that will be because with the additions of KP and Alexander Walker and Luke Kennard, and you have Jalen Johnson back, so you have a lot of mouths to feed, and you only have one basketball to share. So, um, but yeah, I think that just based on what we saw from him last season and like I said, in terms of expecting that offensive game to progress, I think that can be increased to 15 to 16 points per game. So I think he'll do that just being more efficient with his 3 point shooting and getting his
Mhm.
free throw percentage better. I think those were the two deficiencies that a lot of fans and including myself had pointed out about of just him getting better. But I do expect him to be better in those aspects. So I think that's where he'll get that improvement from. I think that his game is still going to remain the same as far as being a catch and shoot 3 point shooter when he's, has it there, cutting to, the baseline and hitting his floaters and all that kind of stuff. That's where he normally scores the ball. But like I said, he'll have this opportunity to score with this 3 point shooting if he continues to improve on that and gets the free throw line and be more efficient at that. So, yeah. And also, yeah, I think that he can be a future all star for sure. I think his defensive talent is really what's going to make his name in his league, and that's just going to continue to be that way. Because, like I said, we saw what we did, last year with Dyson coming up with clutch steals to help us, win games. I remember the clutch steal he had on De'Aaron Fox when we won against the Kings on the road. I remember he had came up with a clutch steal against Desmond Bain that led Karis LeVert to a layup at the rim for a win at the end there. But so it's just that there have been a lot of games where I feel like we could have that we could have lost if it wasn't for Dyson's defensive talent. Um so yeah, I think that he can definitely be a future All Star. It may not be this upcoming season, but he's only he's still a kid, kind of. He's 22, 23 years old. So I mean,
Mhm.
he's nowhere near his prime. But I think just the fact that what he did last season at the age of 22, 23, and you take that and you say, okay, what kind of player he could be in the next 5 years, then you could look at something very, very serious there. So yeah, I think the potential is there. He just has to keep doing what he's doing, and I think he'll get there. So yeah,
And like it's crazy because when you Google him, it literally says on his Wikipedia page, nicknamed the Great Barry. It's so funny. Like even when you Google him, he's known as that now.
yeah.
Yeah, man. And again, I guess that was really just really had to touch on that because I feel like that truly is one of the biggest stories circulating the entire league right now. He's one of the biggest names at this point. And I guess my last question about Dyson, because I did want to get to Keegan Murray of the Sacramento Kings. Do you think he will win a Defensive Player of the Year at one point?
I was hoping he was going to get it this past season. Even when I met him in person for the first time, I said, "Hey, man, I hope you win it, man." Um, he did admit in the interview at one point that, and which is true, the Defensive Player of the Year award is typically awarded to big men, but I mean, we've seen it before that guards can win it too. But I think it takes more of a historic season to do that. The last guard to do so was Marcus Smart,
Marcus
but yeah, but he had one hell of a season during that run, excuse me, when he won it. But um, no, I think that Dyson can. I think it's just more so of whether, because how, like I say, NBA politics is up to them to decide if they're going to give Dyson that kind of award. So if he has another historic season, like he did last year, then it's up to the voters and all that to make that. But like I said, I think that he should have won it this past season. But of course, Evan Mobley got the award, so big congratulations to him. But yeah, I think just with his defensive talent and what he's able to do, and how he impacts the team on both ends of the court. But obviously, we're talking about the defensive end. Yeah, I think he
Smart.
can win. Yeah, I think he can win that award on one day. So yeah, it's definitely there.
All right, word. I mean, hey, man, I think it can happen too. He's 22 years old right now. He just turned 22, so I do think that eventually, I give him to about 27 till he wins that motherfucker. Like, I don't think it's gonna be multiple years of a person being a better defender than him in the league, and like he continues to get older. And if we lock him up on that 5-year deal, and the Hawks have to like the man, like, come on, yo. But go ahead and get to Keegan Murray. He got his bag of $140 million today. Got to be happy for him. He was having a great year for Sacramento his rookie year, averaged 15 points, 5 boards. Last year, I won't say he regressed. I think he improved at certain things. The field goal percentage was the same. His scoring dropped a tad bit. But he is playing next to Zach LaVine and DeMar DeRozan and Demonis Sabonis, so you gotta cut him some slack. Dudes are getting like 20 shots apiece among 3 players. So he averaged 12 points, 7 rebounds, shooting 44% from the field. And I like his athleticism and like his defense. It's really his motor. I think Keegan's really, really good. Real physical forward. And I think they see the potential in him. It was so funny. I was watching this like their media day and they asked him, like, hey, like, do you think people like how do you feel when people say like you don't smile enough and like it's like yeah they're asking these players like for real. I will be honest though, because I saw his brother Chris playing for the Trailblazers one day, and because I forgot he had a twin. I was like, when the fuck did Keegan
Yep.
Murray get traded? I was like, when did Keegan Murray get traded? For real. But how do you feel about Keegan Murray as a player? Um, I know, and again, do you think he can have all-star potential himself? Like I already give you his stats in case you haven't watched him like that. But like I said, he's a good forward. Like people are pretty high on him around the league. So how do you feel about the contract he got? Do you think it was just due? And how do you feel about him overall as a player?
Yeah, I think the contract was, pretty fair. He was the fourth overall pick in the 2022 draft, and so, like you said yesterday, he got a contract extension of 140 million, 5 years. So that's around 28 million a year. So, yeah, 28.5 to be exact, but if I'm correct, but I think that for Keegan Murray, I think that he does have all-star potential, but I'm just not sure if the likes of Russell Westbrook and DeMar DeRozan and Zach LaVine, I'm not sure if those players are going to help him get him there because we know in terms of the pecking order, I feel like those players are going to be up there while Keegan Murray may be at the lower tier of that. So I don't see him
Right.
as being the number one or number two option on that team. Maybe, number three. And that's excluding the acquisition of Dennis Schroeder as well, who had a very good season last season. But I think for Keegan Murray, he's still young, and I think that he does have the potential. Um, you know, Analysts have compared him to Pascal Siakam or Chris Middleton, light type of player. So if he truly develops into to either or those players, then I think that the potential is there. It's just more so of him giving him the looks more often. You know what I'm saying? I think if he's given to be the second or the third option of a team, then I think that he can groom into an all star. But I just think that that's the number one thing. If in terms of becoming an all star, you have to go to a team where you're at least top three in the pecking order, just so that you can
Mhm.
get the shooting touches and get all the minutes that you can, or that all the minutes that you want to go out and perform at the highest level. So if the Kings are able to make that work for him, then I think he can get there. So, but like I said, the contract is reasonable for sure. So he's certainly a big piece to their core. And I'm not sure what the Kings are going to do this year. I don't think they're going to make a deep playoff run. I think they
Not
are
at all.
still a play-in team, but who knows? They just added Russell Westbrook, so with this, experience and leadership, so I don't know. They could make it to the playoffs as a lower seed, but who knows? But yeah. So yeah, we'll just have to see and go from there.
And even then, I do want to kind of react to that, man, because like it's yo, like that kind of. I mean, it's a pretty fucked up realization, man. He's only 36, so he still has a little bit of time. But Russell Westbrook might not ever win an NBA championship, right? It might not ever happen for him. Like his best. I mean, he was in the finals at 23 years old, man, but he ran into LeBron James, man, and like there's not much
Yeah,
you can do about that. Like he really might not ever win a championship. He might not, the whole MVP, all that He averaged four triple double, like a triple double for 4 years straight. And like, I mean, he might not ever like win a ring, man. But obviously he doesn't obviously determine his greatness. He's obviously one of the greatest point guards ever. We saw Patrick Beverly writing for him on the Pat Bev podcast, most definitely. And I do, I do feel what he was saying. When he was when he was talking about Russell, I think he's proven himself as a player. I think his veteranship is really much needed on the team. Still pretty much athletic. His jump shot, it's never been much of a shooter, but I just don't think he's good enough to be on the team. For certain. And to look at Keegan Murray's future, I like just looking at the hierarchy. He's playing with uh again, like he's playing with De'Aaron Fox, not De'Aaron Fox. I'm sorry about that. DeMar DeRozan and Zach Levine. Yeah, no, that was an old list. The Zach Levine and DeMar DeRozan, who I mean, they're both proven all stars. So we'll see if he does take that next step this year. I think we'll know depending on how he performs this year with DeMar DeRozan getting a little bit older. He's still playing at a relatively high level for his age. And you're right, they do have Dennis Schroeder. They still got Malik Monk. But I do think if we're gonna see anything out of him, it'll be this year. I think he could be a good piece now down there next to Demonis Sabonis. So, and I really like Keon Ellis as well. So I think this Kings team is they're all right. I agree with you when you say they're going to be a playing team again. Um, but either way, I always like watching the Western Conference a little bit more than the East because it's a little bit more competitive. But we'll see how it goes for the Kings. But going to the Eastern Conference, where we finally got news on one of the biggest stories, literally of the offseason. One of the greatest forwards of all time, Giannis Antetokounmpo. Shams Charania reported that he almost went to the New York Knicks. Now, there wasn't like a particular trade package or anything per se, because there's a lot of different ways to can mix that. But that was the destination that Giannis did say was his ideal location, was the New York Knicks. Now, I was most interested to see how that was going to go. Like if they were going to try to keep Carl Anthony Towns and Jalen Brunson and have Giannis down low next to Cat, or like I really truly wonder how that was going to go. Obviously, no one really has that high expectations for the Bucks like that this year. ESPN had them winning like I think like 43 games or something like that. So they still got a pretty talented roster on paper, and Giannis can definitely win you 40 games alone for sure. But how do you feel about Giannis going to the Knicks? And do you think that would have worked out even if he would have got traded there at all? Honestly,
Yeah, I think based on what Sharania had mentioned in this reporting, it didn't seem like they were, they couldn't come close to a deal. Based on the reporting, it seemed like they were far apart from, uh, you know, discussions of how they could get a deal done. But I think
right?
it looks great on paper for sure, especially if you're talking about a duo with Jalen Brunson and Giannis together. I guess my only thing is that you have to keep in mind is that they traded majority of their draft capital to acquire Mikal Bridges out of Brooklyn. So
They
in
did.
terms of draft capital, it is very little. So they don't really have much to offer for Giannis because remember you're talking about trading for a two-time MVP and a former defensive player of the year. So that price is going to be very very steep. And with the Knicks, they don't have, like I said, the draft capital that would make it enticing for Milwaukee. And not only that, they don't really have any young players to offer as well because by that point, if you're trading Giannis, you will want to get a collection of draft capital and young players, and the Knicks they don't really have that. So I think the only way that Giannis could go to the Knicks is if it's involved a third team or even a fourth team. If you want to be creative, I think that's the only way that he's going to ever play for the New York Knicks, is to have other teams to come in and facilitate, the trade. So, but if you're just talking about a traditional two team, then I think that would require, at least Carl Anthony Towns. The Knicks have made it very well known that they're not including Jalen Brunson in Giannis trade, but I don't think that you're going to get Giannis with the likes of a Josh Hart or a Mitchell Robinson or even OG Anunoby. I think that they would probably will want a star player back in return. Maybe not the same caliber, but at least a nice building block. With Milwaukee. So that's why I think a Carl Anthony Towns will be a good starting point. But I mean, hey, I just don't think that what the Knicks have, they're just not gonna be able to pull such trade just based on what they have. So they're gonna need more help, from the league to make it work.
And let me ask you, I guess you could put your general manager cap on. Um, if you were the GM of the Knicks yourself, would you pull the trigger on Cat and Mikal Bridges to get Giannis? So you're losing Cat, you're losing Mikal, you're keeping Josh Hart, you're keeping OG Anunoby. You put Giannis at the 4, you put Mitchell Robinson at the 5. That's your new star duo. You have Jalen Brunson, you have what? Yeah, okay, yeah. You have Jalen Brunson, OG, and yeah, you have Giannis and you have Mitchell Robinson. So of course that's really built around Jalen Brunson and Giannis, that team. But those are two unadulterated superstars. Like, would you trade Carl Anthony Towns and Mikal Bridges for Giannis Antetokounmpo if you were the Knicks GM?
Yeah, I don't think that's necessarily a bad deal. Now, I think for the Knicks, I would say as a general manager, I think on one side, I think you're comfortable where you're at because I think the Knicks feel confident, you know, for themselves as a team right now. I think they consider themselves, and for me, I consider them as a championship contending team. I think that they
Okay.
are in the East, so
All right.
I think they're comfortable where they're at. Now, that's not to say to keep themselves out of the Giannis sweepstakes because I mean, Giannis is a top five player, top three, for most people, but I'm saying top five at the very least. So yes, would I want to trade with Giannis? Yeah, but to answer your question directly, yes, if I'm trading Karl Anthony Towns and Mikal Bridges, I think I would do that because you have Jalen Brunson still, who's at the helm at the point guard position. You have Giannis at the four, and you still have OJ and Anunoby, so you still have
And
wing
Josh
depth.
Hart.
Yeah, and Josh Hart. So you're not losing too much per se. Of course, like I said, it's a steep price, so it's not. You're not going to trade Giannis, for a bag of chips. You're gonna have to, you have to, you know, you got to give up something, to make it work. But yeah, I think if the money works for Giannis and Mikal Bridges, yeah, I think it will work. I think the only thing that the Knicks probably would seek is a more quality depth at the center position because Mitchell Robinson at his best, he's a tremendous defender and he's
Yep.
given teams a lot of problems. But with his injury history, I'm not sure if that's sustainable enough to be a contending team. So especially have Giannis back in the front court, so they probably will look into adding another center in the front court just to add some depth, on that end. But yeah, I would do it.
And what if they asked for Josh Hart, and Mikal Bridges, all three players just getting ripped out of your starting lineup? Is that too much?
Yeah, I mean that's the only thing because it's when you're a championship contending team, you want to have as much depth as possible. That's for any championship team. Any championship team will tell you that. So yes, it may look good on paper because you're really thinking about the likes of Brunson and Giannis together. So it's not like they wouldn't make a deep run into the playoffs, but if you're contending for a championship, then it's where you have to have quality depth. So having to trade Karl Anthony Towns and Mikal Bridges, and because it's
And
already
Josh Hart.
hard, and Josh Hart, yeah, but it's hard already that you have to give up Karl Anthony Towns. But like I said, it's Giannis, so you have to keep that in mind. So, but yeah, I wouldn't take it that far.
Mhm.
But yeah, so that'd be kind of hard to do. But like I said, this is just more reality. I know that we're speaking hypotheticals, but in reality, like I said, I think the Knicks are fine where they're at. I don't think they're desperate to trade for Giannis, but then again, if they are serious about it, then they would need to add more help, meaning they have to go out and call another team or two just to see if they're able to help make a deal work, help facilitate such deal. So but yeah, I think I would draw a line on that one.
Okay, and like you did just say, this is hypothetical. I was asking these questions so we could try and form a potential trade package, I guess, for the Knicks. I do agree with you when you do say that those three players are too much. That's just really affecting the front line they've built around Jalen Brunson, their best scorer on the team, without a doubt. Personally, I wouldn't trade Karl Anthony Towns. I know he's not as mobile as Giannis. He can't. I mean, he's athletic. He can dribble a little bit if Cat gets it out there in the open floor, but like he's not like Giannis, where Giannis is like literally a point forward. He can dribble, he could be the primary playmaker and all of that. Karl Anthony can't do that, but and Giannis two-time MVP, all that stuff. But I think with Cat, he just averaged 24 points and 13 rebounds a game last year, his first year in the Garden. So I do think that getting traded from the Timberwolves definitely lit a fire under him. And I think he's playing at a superstar level. I think he's going to go on to be a great Nick. He's I think he's 29. Cat's 29 right now, not even 30 yet. So he's literally just now getting in his prime. And you can see it in his physique too. He's got really swole the last couple
Hmm.
seasons. Like no joke. When you see him in the Knicks jersey, you can see his arms. Like he's put on a lot of muscle for sure. Like the former number one overall pick of the 2015 NBA draft. Always like Cat. I thought obviously people would joke on him and stuff. They call him Cat soft and shit. But like I said, I do think for at least for right now, like this new environment. He's from New Jersey, playing in the Garden. Like I do think this is massive for Carl Anthony, and they got him on an extension. Minnesota had just extended him when they traded him up there to like to New York. So um, I am intrigued to see how this is going to go with the way they try to run this back this year. They made the Eastern Conference Finals for the first time in 25 years. The Knicks did. And I do think that Jalen Brunson can take him to the promised land. We're gonna see how it goes though, because they do got to worry about the Hawks now. Well, again in the playoffs. And I do think that Trae Young does like playing the Knicks. Obviously, we know his career numbers versus New York and stuff like that. But I think that it's gonna be exciting to see what New York does do this year. And I think they keep their team for the future. I like OG. They all like playing with each other. They improved the team a lot with like players like Yabusele this year. And to go back to Giannis, just to end on the Bucks. I truly do wonder if Giannis will ever leave. Obviously, he's extremely unapologetic about voicing his concerns about the franchise, and he feels entitled. He won them a championship, and I get it. Like the Bucks, like many people thought they weren't going to amount to anything after that whole Kareem era. So to see Giannis actually take them to a championship, win it, and from then on there remain a good team. We saw the Damian Lillard stuff that went down the drain. So, and they stretched that contract, so they got nothing out of that, and they signed Miles Turner to try to salvage their offseason. So, I guess this is my last question to you on this topic. Like, do you think that Giannis ever leaves the Bucks? They've lost like majority of their superstars. Ray Allen left, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar left. So do you think that eventually Giannis Antetokounmpo will add to that tradition and leave the Milwaukee Bucks?
It's already happened, my guy. I'm just counting on the days.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Um, yeah, based on his recent comments about, hey, yeah, I'm still in Milwaukee, etc. But the whole I think the key piece is when he mentioned like, hey, within the next 6 or 7 months, I could change my mind. So that right there, that is the highlight of that whole phrase. I can't quote everything that he said, but just
Right, right.
highlighting that piece of information that lets you know that it's counting down the days. That's counting down the days because I think he's aware because I said it on other platforms, but just to say it all, when you look at the Bucks, for what they've done this offseason and just reading between the lines, I know they're trying their very best to keep him because it's gotten to the point where they signed Giannis's two other brothers to join the team. So I think they're trying to pull, you know, everything that they have just to try to get him to stay. But I
Can I
mean,
ask you about that actually? I'm so sorry
yeah,
to interrupt you. Like, how did you feel when I saw that shit, man? Like, I'm not a hater. Like, they got like a fucking like a Disney special, like a old Disney show dedicated to life and stuff like that.
yeah.
Three brothers playing for an NBA team and stuff. Like, I get it. It's a beautiful story, but like, do you like? I guess I'm not even gonna phrase the question. Like, how do you feel about that? Do you think that was a good thing for him to do that for his brothers? Do you think they're taking opportunities away from people who deserve it? Like, how did you feel about that?
Yeah, I
Serious.
mean, clearly it doesn't move me. I mean, it doesn't excite me to. I mean, it doesn't really excite me, and I don't think it excites the fans as far as what the Bucks could potentially do this year. I
Mhm.
mean, it doesn't change their status, to be honest with you. I mean, it doesn't change that. I think at best, Milwaukee they could be a top six seed at best. Now, I think they could fight for that six seed, maybe fifth, but I'm just only saying that due to the likes of you still have Giannis, you have Miles Turner. I think that combination is going to be quite lethal. But like I said, I think at best they could be a top six seed, just enough to where they don't have to go through the play in. But just signing his brothers, I mean, it seems like they're trying to I guess, have his brothers to, have a word in his ear to try to convince him to stay. I think that's what's more towards it. I don't think it has anything to do with a talent level per se, because, like I said, no disrespect to them, but I don't think their brothers elevate the Bucks' status to make a deep run into the playoffs. Like I'm sorry. Like I said, it's no disrespect or anything, but that's just how I look at it. I think it's just more so just trying to convince Giannis to stay, and they're trying to do everything that they can to do so. But I will say that, to back to what I was saying with Giannis and the Bucks, um, yeah, I just don't think that this team is good enough to make a deep run into the playoffs, because we know that you having to waive Damian Lillard just to sign Miles Turner, Giannis was not on board with that. So my thing, or at least my theory or logic is that, okay, if you're looking to keep a player like Giannis's caliber, you want to do everything you can to make him satisfied. And the fact that you had to waive Damian Lillard just to sign Miles Turner, and he wasn't on board with that, that clearly tells me that you're not really trying to build a contending team, man. And really, be honest with you, they can't build a winning environment around Giannis. I think that's the key that some people make, because they don't have first round picks until 2031, and we're in 2025, almost to 2026. So you're looking at about 5 to 6 years of the Bucks having no assets that they could use to upgrade the roster, and they could find themselves kind of in the same situation that the Suns are in.
Right.
You don't have much assets to work with, so you're forced. Remember, they were forced to trade Kevin Durant, and they were forced to get rid of Bradley Beal. So they could find themselves in a similar situation where it's like, okay, well, all the other auxiliary pieces that we had with Drew Holiday, Brook Lopez, Chris Middleton, Wesley Matthews, all those guys are gone. So you had Damian Lillard, you tried it out for 2 years, that didn't work. So you're left with, technically nothing at this point. So that's why I said I think, we're counting down the days. Now, it is a possibility where Giannis, I know they said, 6 to 7 months, but I think that we can also make a theory that if we give it up to the trade deadline, he could say, "Hey, let's see how we do in the first half of the season. And if I feel like, hey, we're not trending in the right direction, then he could request a trade then and say, hey, I'm going to leave early so I can, expedite this so I can focus on, getting myself to an organization where I feel like I can win." Or, he could wait till the summertime. But like I said, that's his decision. But I'm just, speaking hypotheticals. But yeah, I think the numbers are kind of counting down. I think people are gearing up for, Milwaukee to, come to to an end of an era. But it's been a great ride in Milwaukee for Giannis, and, we'll see, where, his future endeavors holds him for. So it's just a matter of time.
Hall of Famer Charles Barkley said he was ungrateful. He said if I was the Bucks, like yeah, like no, he said he said I wish the Bucks love me the way the Bucks love Giannis. He was like, yeah, like I wish like my teams love me the way the Bucks love Giannis, the way they've done everything, and
Of course,
trying to. Hmm.
of course, yeah,
Oh yeah. Oh, where my bad for sure. And yeah, like again. I think Charles Barkley had a point when he said that. Obviously, I think Giannis has a little bit more. Except if they were having a conversation, I think Giannis will have a little bit more leeway because like not even trying to be on some Shaq shit. Like he literally won a championship for his franchise, so he 100%. And he knew that was an uphill battle when he got drafted to the team to try to do that. Like Jabari Parker came in, he tore his ACL. Like that was a massive setback for the Bucks, and he came in with all that adversity year after year after year, putting on all that muscle. He won 2 MVPs, and the next year after that, he won the championship. So it was like, man, I think he has a right to feel this way. He doesn't want to waste his prime, man, on a losing. Like I feel him on that shit, man. So it's crazy how the NBA is a business not only for the front offices but also for the players. Like his desire to win overrides any of that lovey-dovey shit that people think that's going on in the front office, and he's saying it out loud, to the point where I hope it doesn't, ruin his standing in Milwaukee. I hope it's not like a LeBron situation when LeBron left Cleveland the first time, even though he won the championship and stuff like that. I think people don't like how he's trying to like just force his way out. Not force his way because he wants to win. He'll stay and try to win. But I think if he walked in there right now and requested a trade, they would do it because the shit they could get back for him. But I think like I agree with you from my final statement on the Giannis thing. I think they're gonna give it till halfway through with this new roster, see what they can do. He's not gonna. Hopefully, he doesn't jump, abandon ship like that. At least see, give it like 40 games first. Give it 40 games. If you're 20-20, I understand completely why you want to leave 100%. So yeah, man, like it'd be crazy to see him leave. I can't get off this topic without saying this. I do think he will get a jersey retirement. I don't think anyone's ever gonna wear 34 for Milwaukee ever again. And if they somehow didn't do that, it would be literally a travesty. If somebody else just came in 30 years from now and just put that shit on
You
just
just
because they had a
had to ruin this. You just had to
I
ruin.
mean, no, I'm not ruining.
You,
I mean, no, like,
you
what do you mean?
couldn't
I'm not.
just move
What do you,
on without mentioning a goddamn jersey retirement.
I'm not. Yo, you're acting like I'm saying like I'm speaking a different language. Like it's obviously gonna
No,
happen.
no,
You
no.
feel
I'm
me?
just saying that
Making
Like that's
the
look,
obvious.
what's understood ain't got to be explained. That's what I'm
Mhm.
saying.
Nah, for sure, most definitely. But yeah, I do mention that though because I hope what's happening doesn't ruin like his ending in Milwaukee. But yeah, again, hopefully he doesn't leave. But we'll see what happens with the Bucks this season. And going into our last topic of the night, one I was actually pretty excited to talk about when I woke up this morning. We're gonna talk about the rising stars, or at least our rising stars, going into the 2025-2026 season. You don't gotta give me a specific total of players, Gary. You can just go off the dome, whoever you like. Um, for me, I was gonna start out with some bad news, man. It sucks because like Jaden Ivey's out for 4 weeks after a knee surgery. And man, I thought Jaden Ivey was gonna have a big year. I mean, he's still gonna play, but I think that the injuries he's facing, it's really starting to hamper his potential. He averaged 17 points last year in the games that he did play. And I still think he's a really good player, the former number 4 overall pick. But we're gonna see what happens. He's still young at 23, but I think Oscar Thompson is going to come in and really take the hype that Ivy was supposed to have. Of course, they're teammates; they can both shine. But I do think that Oscar Thompson is due for a big year. But my first rising star, though, I will say, is likely going to be Amen Thompson. I think he's going to have a really, really big year in Houston, playing alongside Kevin Durant. Katie's going to be massive for him in terms of a veteran. And I do think that Amen already has like all-star potential, even at his age. His defense, his athleticism, being able to even sometimes play the point with his playmaking. Just a really good, well-rounded player. I think he's improving really nicely for his age. And yeah, I think if they had to choose between Alperen being the guy or Amen Thompson, personally, I would prefer like I just think Amen Thompson really can go on to be a star player and not even keeping it with the Rockets. I was watching Reed Shepard during the Hawks preseason game a few minutes ago, and he was looking really, really good out there. He was looking great doing, step back mid range ish, pulling up threes with no hesitation. I think he's going to be great this year too. I think Reed's going to have a really, really big year. We saw him in the offseason working with Trae Young. So we know that that's going to do a lot. Just playing with another guard around his size that has had the success Trey's had. I'm really excited to see that development for Reece Shepard this year. And I guess one of my last rising stars, because I'm really thinking, honestly, I'm gonna say Chet Holmgren of the Oklahoma City Thunder. I think he's gonna have a big year this year, coming off that championship run. I want to know he can really be that number 2 next to Shea Gilgeous-Alexander. Of course, people think it's Jalen Williams right now, which it could be either or. But I'm really, really high on Chet Holmgren. I was high on him at Gonzaga. I thought it was devastating when he got that injury during that LeBron scrimmage or whatever it was. So I think my rising star this year is going to be Chet Holmgren. I think he's going to rise defensively, really be up there with guys like Victor Wembanyama, Evan Mobley, dudes like that. And I think his scoring is going to take an upkick too and really go on to be that number 2 option this year. And really, I guess, fight J-Dub for that. But I'll say that though, like mom, like, I'm really, I'm stuck between Eamon Thompson and Chet Holmgren, but I really want to see Chet Holmgren this year, coming off that championship. But who do you think you want to see the most this year as a young player going into a big year?
Man, that's yeah. I know we're not going to there, but I will say the Thompson twins, the men and Asar Thompson, they're just, I think they are your your prototype wing players, guys that give position list, size, and that can defend at a very high level. And especially for a man Thompson in Houston, he was named second team all defense if I'm not mistaken. I think he may have been first, I can't remember, um, but no, I think that he can grow into a an elite defender for sure. So we'll just have to see his progression. But outside of that, I think we already touched upon Dyson Daniels, so I think he's going to be a rising star this year for sure. I would say Jalen Duren out of Detroit. I think he's a very good one. So I'm just a big fan of his offensive game and defensive rebound potential, being able to average between 12 13 rebounds a night, and that can give you 15 16 points, so, and a couple blocks. So I'm a big fan of his, and he's another guy that we're gonna be on the lookout for his possible contract extension. So we'll see. But yeah, I think those guys are gonna have right start big years this year. So big season. So yeah, let's just name a few. So,
Mm-hmm.
but I know there's gonna be guys that we're gonna look out for rising stars. Even for rookies this year, Cooper Flag, I think he's gonna have a big year this year in Dallas. So, but yeah, I think it's gonna be a high class of young guys that's gonna have big seasons this year. So looking forward to it.
Yeah, man. Like, yo, me and you both. Like, again, if I had to pick any of those dudes to become an all-star this year, I think it's shit, man. It's actually kind of hard now that now that I get there. If I had to pick one, because I think the Rockets and the Thunder, I see both going to be at the top of the West this year. So, if I had to be honest, who's more likely to become an all-star? It's likely Chet, but I think that Eamon would be kind of more deserving in his role. I think that Chet is going to make it off the aura of the Oklahoma City Thunder. They're the defending champions. They're also one of the youngest teams literally in the league right now, in the champions. So I think the aura of OKC is going to get Chet in the big game. But I think Eamon Thompson is going to be the one really having like an all-star caliber year. And he averaged 14 points, 8 rebounds last year. 8 rebounds at 6'7" at 22 years old, bro. So he's gonna be a fucking monster when he really starts to develop. And like you can see it on the floor, like, this is I feel like he was really confident, honestly, from day one. He didn't even go to regular college. This man was at overtime elite, came out and just started like fucking these dudes up, similar to his brother. I just think that I think Osser is really good as well. I just think that playing alongside Cade, I think Cade gets so much shine, and I think that Eamon is just in such a really good position in Houston, where like he's a little bit higher up on their hierarchy than Osser is in Detroit. So I do think that like how you said, Garrett, the Thompson twins, I think both of them are bound to at least be all-stars at least, a couple times in their careers. They certainly have the potential. But if I had to go with one guy out of that Rising Stars bunch to be a destined all-star this year, I think for sure it's going to be Chet Holmgren. I think he's bound to make an all-star team, be perennial all-star. It's really all a matter of him taking that rise defensively, like how I mentioned. Like if he can be Defensive Player of the Year candidate at his frame, he has to put on some muscle for sure. So, but I think he is gonna hit the next level. I think he's the guy on that team that's destined to really hit that next level. Shea is already averaging 32 fucking points a game. So, yeah, man, I think all of these players are destined for big years this year. Can't, reach too high right now. I just got to see these young guys develop. But I think it's going to be an exciting year. Most definitely. It's a lot of storylines going on, even amongst the younger players, like Cooper Flag being in Dallas and shit like that. So I am really excited to see how these players pan out. And I guess, and one more thing I will say, he's not a rising star, not at all. He's already a solidified star, but the revamped, new, improved Zion Williamson, I do want to see how he looks this year. I'm really excited to see this new Zion Williamson. He looks extremely motivated after going through all that, Mariah Mills BS, on social media, and he seems like he really just wants to focus in on basketball for the first time in a long time. You could tell when Zion got drafted, he just lost his fucking mind, with that money and the women. And like, you can tell he just lost his mind, bro. So I think Zion this year, I'll say he's the guy I want to see like the most this year. Really, really take that leap. And I know he's not a rising star, like I said, but I really, really, really want to see Zion reach his full potential this year. Um, like how he was supposed to when he came out number one overall. So that's really it for me tonight, man. I know we discussed our topics today. Preseason's winding down. It's almost time for the season. Opening night is literally next week. So I guess, next show, it's already set up for us. We can just react to some of the biggest storylines from the opening weekend. Not opening weekend, but the opening weeknight, I guess. And yeah, we got the Lakers playing the Warriors, OKC playing the Thunder. I mean, OKC playing the Rockets. So it is gonna be pretty crazy to see KD watch Oklahoma raise a banner. That's gonna be fucking wild. Like, that's why I watch basketball. I like the storylines. That's why I watch this shit, bro. Hell yeah. So we got a big thing coming, y'all. I'm really excited for this year on this podcast. Got a lot of stuff going on. Got a lot of guest appearances coming from journalists, people that own their own shows. You never know who we might have on the incoming commentator. So I'm really excited for this season with the boys. My man Wiley on the ones and twos. As always, my man Garrett right beside me. So that's it for me, man. Unless you got anything else you had to say, Garrett. I'm ready to go for this opening night, man. I'm ready, man. Next week.
Yep. Very excited, man. Yeah.
Yeah, man.
Also, real quick, don't forget to hit up the QR code up there at the top left of the screen. Make sure y'all like, share, subscribe, all that good stuff. Tell your people to pull up on us, man. We greatly appreciate everybody.
Of course, always. Please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Go watch the Best Damn W show as well. Always, most definitely. Always got great stuff over there. And y'all have a blessed weekend. Get ready for some hoops next week. And yeah, get ready to watch us way more this season.
Oh man, what's up? They gave me my theme music.